After Wano, it's safe to say Monkey D. Luffy is now one of the most powerful characters in all of One Piece, but a lot of people really don't know where to pinpoint his strength exactly. Either he's the strongest dude in the verse or exceptionally strong due to his victory against Kaido. However, in today's video, I'll do my best to dissect just how strong he is. Now, I've made a video about Luffy's strength in pre-time skip and even discuss how strong he was pre-Wano. However, since I've made those videos, it's clear to say a lot of what I used to scale One Piece simply isn't the same, and my opinions have changed a little. For example, in my pre-time skip video, I said you could argue that Luffy is lightspeed, but it's not really consistent, but now I do believe that there is actual consistency to say that pre-time skip Luffy is well into lightspeed. But before getting into how powerful Luffy in Wano is, I want to refresh you guys on what I originally had Luffy at. So after the fight between him and Katakuri, going from losing to him in Gear 4 to beating him up in base, the same Gear 4 who nearly took down all of Dressrosa, which was calculated to be at country level. Now what's interesting about this is in the next arc, the power cliffing gets even worse than when it did in Whole Cake, as you see post Katakuri Luffy trying to take on Kaido, and we see what happens.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
After getting absolutely one-shotted by him, he goes on a whole training arc discovering Rio while being suppressed and technically weakened. But despite this, Luffy still is getting stronger every day through learning about Rio and rushing through all of his prison activities, which require immense physical strength. And Luffy even says himself, despite being nerfed by the cuffs, once he's released, we'll just see how much powerful he's gotten. It sounds silly to say, but Luffy gets stronger from this, and it's stated multiple times by Luffy that he must get stronger in order to face Kaido, meaning that he has the intention to. Plus, when Luffy has the intention to surpass someone, we actually do see him get stronger. This is shown in the fight with Crocodile and Katakuri, and if you want to get technical, the first two fights with Lucci and Blueno. Luffy eventually would go on to escape the prison and face Kaido again. Now, I want you guys to compare his performance from his first fight to the rooftop one. Yeah, it's a legit night and day comparison. Luffy didn't even stand a chance while fighting Kaido at first, not even damaging him in his weakest state. Meanwhile, Luffy at Rooftop would go on to fight alongside Law, Kid, Zoro, and Killer in Gear 4 initially, showing that he's at least now able to annoy Kaido. But Luffy doesn't stop there, as he would go on to use his advanced armament haki in base to clash with Hybrid Kaido, splitting the sky. This feat is only something that Whitebeard, Shanks, Kaido, and Big Mom are capable of, showing that Luffy is at the very least in that realm of strength. Kaido also makes this implication as well, though this is just in reference to people who damage him, and there is a clear gap between Whitebeard and Odin. All the Yonkos should definitely be in the same tier as one another, even if there is a power hierarchy. Meaning the Yonkos should at least be able to take a casual attack from Kizaru, and this makes sense since Kaido doesn't even consider Rayleigh a threat to him, and Rayleigh is able to kind of clash with Kizaru. Now, I do think Kizaru is holding back against Rayleigh, though this doesn't really matter because this same holding back Kizaru is the same dude whose energy is able to put a dent in the tree from Salbaody. This is calculated to be at 10.44 exatons of TNT, or enough energy to destroy multiple continents. Meaning Kizaru from a casual kick had enough energy to nearly surface wipe the planet.
Well, why didn't he do it then?
Because the One Piece planet is as big as your mother. But anyways, Luffy at the very least should scale to a super casual kick from Kizaru due to the top tiers in One Piece not being really far behind each other at all. This is also taking into account base Luffy, mind you, the same dude who can multiply his power by 10 times with Gear 2 and 3 times on top of this with Gear 4. Meaning Luffy pre-Gear 5 in Bounce Man should be capable of dishing out 312 exatons of TNT, or enough energy to take out the goddamn moon. And Luffy's power growth strangely doesn't even stop there. He attains Gear 5 and completely dog walks Kaido. By this point, people consider Luffy to be the strongest One Piece character since he slapped Kaido, who apparently is the strongest or rumored to be the strongest. And once again, this is just rumors and the source of these statements are literally non-existent. However, I do think it's at least reasonable to say Luffy should scale to the other Yonkos through beating one himself, and crippled Whitebeard is capable of destroying the One Piece planet, which was calculated to be at the size of a dwarf star. However, I do think it's a little fallacious to say this because Whitebeard again is using his Devil Fruit, which is durability negation to an extent, plus Whitebeard is also still the strongest pirate around. But if you want to say he could technically tank it because all the Yonkos are relative to each other, though he'd probably be crippled on the ground, then yeah, I guess. But if you want to say that Gear 5 is basically the strongest form we've seen up to this point and should have a higher multiplier than anything we've seen, it's reasonable to say that Luffy could probably destroy a small planet. But I think confidently we should say that he is well into moon level. As for hacks, now I've discussed the previous abilities of Luffy in my other videos, so this mainly will cover the hacks that he attains through Gear 5. Firstly, bro has Toon Force, meaning to an extent he can reality warp. Mans came back from death, basically reviving himself, and is straight up Bugs Bunnying Kaido half of the time. He is able to interact with things that are intangible such as lightning, and he can also seemingly turn the environment around him into a rubber-like substance, similarly to Doflamingo's awakening. We see him slap the ground and make a rubber wall to block Kaido's attacks. And Gear 5 has the limb inflation of Gear 3 while also having the muscle inflation of Gear 4, being able to enlarge himself and overwhelm Kaido with his strength. And if you thought Luffy was a beast beforehand, well, bro by this point can see a few seconds into the future, has access to advanced armament haki which allows him to pierce through his opponent's durability, is seemingly able to use advanced conquerors, and has shown an even godlier resistance to poison. Now, I saved this section for last because this is the section that gets me the most enraged, personally. Y'all swear Kizaru and Kuma are the only lightspeed characters in One Piece when 90% of the people they fight dodge these light beams, especially Kuma. Zoro, while crippled against Kuma, reacts to attacks that move at light speed. Luffy pre-Water 7 can react to things that move at light speed. And we know that Haki users already can increase their strength/speed because Haki does correlate to your speed via observation, which is what every top tier One Piece character already uses. And they can amp themselves to at least over 100 times. And this definitely does apply to speed, mind you, because if it didn't, then how could Luffy even tag Katakuri even though he was adapting during the fight? He'd have to have relative combat and reaction speed to said fighter in order to adapt to him. I could really get into all the specifics, but I've already done that through multiple videos, and to keep it short, Luffy by pre-time skip should arguably be lightspeed. So saying Luffy who can increase his power by tens of times, and then his base form adapting to these levels, and then he's able to stack with more multipliers on top of this, it shouldn't be a shocker to anybody that Luffy is well into lightspeed by this point. And to conclude the video, Gear 5 Luffy is one of the strongest One Piece characters. However, he is not the strongest One Piece character. And if you do want to say that all the Yonkos are relative to each other, then sure, Gear 5 Luffy could have planetary scaling to maybe even Dwarf Star. However, I do think Moon Level is a little more consistent for the verse, especially since we have multiple multi-continental calcs. Though it's really up to your guys' interpretation. And with that out of the way, let me know down below what other characters you'd like me to scale in the future, and leave a like along with subscribing and hitting the bell icon. Thank you guys once again for watching the video. My name is Ty Learned, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And I swear to God, if I see any comments trying to say that Luffy is number 1, I'm going to lose my mind.